Today's episode
is fresh tomato soup.
You say tomato, I say tomato.
Tomato, potato. Hi everybody, welcome to Cavalcade of Food. I'm Kevin.
Hi Kevin, I'm Ralph, I'm behind the camera.
And Ralph, we are going to make fresh tomato soup. And I say fresh because you can make tomato soup quite easily with canned tomatoes. And a lot of people do, and it's very good. But this time of year, especially here in Michigan where we are, the tomatoes are exploding off the plants.
And it's something that we all have had, tomato soup, but have you ever thought about making it from scratch?
Yeah, and it's not that big of a deal, and it's a great way to use up tomatoes, especially, of course, we love tomatoes, and you know, there's this window sort of end of July through September where the tomatoes are coming in, and they are so delicious
and plentiful.
So plentiful, but so flavorful. I mean,
yes.
They taste like a tomato.
Yes.
Not like the stuff we buy the rest of the year that's grown in a hothouse or picked when they're green and shipped weeks later. And
you mean those cardboard flavored ones?
Yes. These are real tomatoes. So, and sometimes, you know, you have a beautiful tomato off the plant, and it's nice to just slice it, but sometimes tomatoes, like some people, like I will include myself, are not quite perfect in every way. And so you have tomatoes here that are a little misshapen, or they have a weird marking on it from the bud, or they're a little cracked on the top, and you think, these aren't really table tomatoes that you'd want, but you know what? They're still tomatoes. They're still delicious, even if they're not 100% perfect.
They may be misshapen, they may be mashugana, but they're still tasty, delicious.
But they're still delicious, right? So just because something's not perfect doesn't mean it's not great.
Oh, okay.
So you know what? But these are the perfect tomatoes to use for soup, because we're going to chop them up. Doesn't matter what they look like. It matters what they taste like. So a tomato like this...
Ain't that a peach? No, that's a tomato.
This would be great for like a stuffed tomato or something like that, where you want a nice,
perfectly
good,
rounded.
round, okay? But, so, I need 4 cups of chopped tomatoes. So I'm going to start chopping these up, and I'm going to start with the ones, like I said, that, are a little blemished, but that's okay. And you're going to take the core out of them here, and then you're just going to rough chop them, because they're going to go, we want 4 cups, we're going to put them in the pot. I got a couple tablespoons of olive oil here, Ralph, in our stock pot. And let me get these tomatoes chopped up, and then I'll come back and we'll start getting stuff in the pot, okay? Ralph, I got our tomatoes chopped up.
Wow, look at all those.
I got 4 cups here of tomatoes.
Rough chop.
Just a rough chop, because there's a couple different ways there's a lot of different ways you can make tomato soup, and some tomato soups are like a cream of tomato, where you have cream, you add milk or cream to the tomato base. I don't have any cream, and I didn't want to go to the store to get any. So we're going to make tomato soup with a chicken stock base, okay? We're going to add chicken stock to our tomatoes, and we're going to put it through a food mill, which I've got a couple of examples right here, and we'll look at these more later and talk about how they're used, okay?
So will it come out as sort of a puree?
Well, yeah, it'll basically, what the food mill will do is the food mill will help keep the seeds and the skin from the soup.
Oh, okay.
But first, what we got to do to really bring out the flavor of everything is we gotta cook it down a little bit, okay? So I've got a couple tablespoons of olive oil in the pot. I've got 4 cups of tomatoes here.
Listen to that sizzle.
They're going to go in. And then I've got 1 medium onion chopped up. Again, rough chop. We're going to put that in the pot. And then I've got 2 cups of chicken stock. All right, we're going to put that in the pot. And then I've got a half a teaspoon of black pepper and a couple of bay leaves. We're going to put that in the pot. Then we'll get it all mixed in here. We're going to bring this up to a boil, and then we're going to reduce it to a simmer. And again, tomatoes, which I think actually tomato is a fruit, it's not a vegetable, but have a lot of water. So the tomatoes will release their water and they'll loosen up, and we'll get the onions nice and soft, and we're going to let this just come to a boil and then simmer for about 20-25 minutes. So Ralph, it's been about 25 minutes. I turned off the heat. So here is our tomatoes, onions, and I'm going to just get these 2 little bay leaves out of here. They've done their job. So now what we're going to do is we're going to put this through a food mill. Now, maybe you have a food mill, and the chances are that maybe you don't have a food mill.
I don't.
Don't go out and buy one if you're just going to make tomato soup. But what you could use instead is a sieve, a fine mesh sieve, and a spatula. And what you would do is you would push the pulp and the juice through the sieve, and the seeds and the skin would stay.
Oh, okay.
So, you'd put the sieve over a bowl, big bowl, and that's how you would do it. How this works is sort of like a sieve. A food mill's got these perforations in the bottom, and then on the top, it's got kind of a grinder that pushes the food against the holes and forces the pulp and the juice through out into the bowl, and the seeds and the skin stay in the upper chamber.
Got it.
So if you ever want to make homemade tomato sauce, or if you're going to make jams or jellies, or other kind of pureed fruits and vegetables, then maybe you want to invest in a food mill. But if you don't have one, you can still do this. Just use a sieve and a spatula to push things through.
Okay.
So we're going to take our mixture here, and we're going to put it in, and a couple ladles at a time. And it's still warm, Ralph, but yeah, I don't know if the camera can pick up what it's doing.
Yeah.
You see? And it's just pushing that through. And see, the seeds are staying up top, and the skins are staying up top.
See how much easier it is this way to have one of these devices?
And then look what you get in the bottom. All that tomato goodness. Okay? And it's also doing the same. The onions have cooked down nice and soft, and they're being pushed through as well. So you're going to get the onion flavor in the soup, which of course we want as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go, I'll need to empty the top probably after the next batch here. I'm going to continue to put our mixture in here and run it through the mill. And then when we get back, how we're going to thicken the soup up is by using a roux.
Oh, I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Okay, so that's going to be,
The
butter and flour, and we'll do the next part when we get back. It's really an easy soup to make. So, take a look. This is our tomato liquid.
Yum.
So that's really the soup. But again, we're not using cream to thicken. We're going to make a roux. So we've made roux before, haven't we?
We sure have.
So equal parts butter and flour. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to use about 2 tablespoons of butter. And we're going to put that in the pan here and get it melted. And then I've got 2 tablespoons of flour over here. So we'll melt the butter first. And the other thing too is there's something when you have butter in soup, it really gives a nice sort of almost a silkiness, and of course, you know, adds to the flavor. But this will help. This will help thicken the soup up. Now, I'm gonna wait for this butter to melt here. Once I put the flour in, I'm gonna whisk it together, and I want it to cook till the roux is like just a golden brown. You got to be careful when you're doing this because you don't want to overcook the roux. It can get dark very quickly, and we don't want that. We want it just kind of golden brown. And then, you know what, Ralph? I've also got our friend Melanie gave Marianne this organic basil plant a while ago, and it's been growing nicely.
Sure
and so
has.
I've taken some of the leaves, and we're going to garnish with the basil. So I think that'll go
Just
well.
a nice touch. You don't want to, you were saying earlier, not to overdo the flavoring because you don't want it to taste like a...
I don't want it to taste like spaghetti
Like a
sauce. So
spaghetti
you start
sauce,
putting
yeah.
basil and garlic and
Too many other
oregano
things.
and stuff in there, and that's fine if that's how you like it. But to me, I really want to just taste the tomato. All right, so our butter is melted. We're going to use a whisk, and we're going to move that around. We want one to cook the flour because we don't like the taste of raw flour, that's for sure. So we want to make sure we cook it, and I've got the heat just on medium here. And Ralph, I don't know if you can smell it from where you're standing, but it'll start to almost have a nutty
yes,
kind
I'm
of aroma.
Definitely getting that.
Yeah. So what this is here, this is what I would call a light roux. Okay, it's just really almost the same color as the butter itself.
But as you said, you want to be careful not to get it too overcooked or brown.
Right. So what I want to do is I do want it a little bit more golden, so I'm going to cook it just another minute.
And that's enough to thicken the soup?
Yeah, it should be. You know, you don't want...
Flour
We're not
soup.
making tomato paste here or tomato sauce.
Or flour soup.
Exactly. So, you know, you want the soup to be thin enough. Okay, look where the roux is now. See, just that fast? See that? It's kind of gotten darker.
Yeah, it happens quickly, so you have to really keep an eye on it.
So I'm actually going to take it off the heat. Then what I'm going to do
That smells
is
good.
I'm going to bring the tomato mixture over here, and I'm going to put just a ladle of this in. Okay? And what I want to do first is I want to get it, because I don't want any lumps. Now, you getting a tomato facial, Ralph? I am.
So this
Now,
is almost like a chemistry.
Look at that.
Yeah.
You see? I mean, that's, of course, we don't want it that thick.
No, but that's
But that's the idea.
it's a way of integrating the roux.
Right, and so we're going to do that, and we want to just put this in a ladle at a time to work out the lumps. And of course, that flour, that roux, lightens the color into sort of this really beautiful, light kind of rose color. All right, so once you've got a couple ladles in there and you've got it nice and smooth, okay? We don't want any chunks of flour. We want that completely dissolved. We'll move it back to the heat here, and over medium, we're going to put the rest of the soup in. And then we'll bring that up to heat. And then there's only two things that we need to add at this point, Ralph, to it.
Okay.
We want to taste it for seasoning. So I've got a teaspoon of salt at the ready. I always don't like, I like to keep the salt for last, because remember, we use chicken stock here. And that chicken stock is salty. It has some salt in it. And I don't want to I hate soup that's so salty. And then I got a little pinch of sugar ready, because tomato, well, you know this, Ralph, we talk about it.
It's very acidy.
Acidy, very acidic. And so how do you kind of, what's the counterpunch to the acid? Sweet.
A little sweet.
Okay? And so just a little bit of sugar, not that we want sweet soup, we just want to tone that acidic nature down. So I'm going to cook this. As this soup comes up to temperature, that roux will kick in and will thicken this up a little bit more. But isn't that beautiful?
Yeah, and what's the heat?
Just medium. So let me get this soup up to heat, up to proper thickness. We'll taste for seasoning, and then we're ready with our homemade fresh tomato soup. It's come up to a little bit of a bubble. I've turned the heat down, so it's at good thickness here.
Yes, looking like tomato soup for sure.
So now I'm gonna let me get a clean spoon. Let me do a taste. And I want to just, before I put the salt and sugar in, definitely needs a little pinch of both. So I'm going to put in maybe, a half a teaspoon of salt here. And maybe a half a teaspoon of sugar. Again, just to take that acid out. Get another clean spoon. Delicious. So now here's what I'm going to do. We're going to put the soup in this bowl. Oh, have this with a grilled cheese sandwich or any kind of sandwich for that.
Even a tomato sandwich?
You could, if you really wanted a tomato, why not? There it is. Isn't that pretty?
Very.
Beautiful. And what a great way to use up our beautiful garden fresh tomatoes that are coming in.
Our bounty of tomatoes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that little basil.
Does that give it a nice kick?
Oh, yeah, it's hot, but is it good? Yeah, it tastes like tomato. Mm-hmm. You know, the chicken broth is there, but the tomato really comes to the front here with this. So, and you know, you don't have, not that we worry that much about calories, but you don't have all the fat with the cream and everything else. And frankly, you know, this is sort of a little easier to make.
Yes.
So, anyways.
Fewer steps.
We had fun putting this tomato soup together. So glad you could be with us. If you've got tomatoes at your local farmers markets or maybe even in your own backyard garden, enjoy them.
Thanks for coming along with us for this recipe.
And the recipe is always, as always, in the description below the video. And you know what? We'll see you all again real soon. Stay strong.
Stay safe. Stay healthy.
And see you back here at Cavalcade of Food. Bye, everybody.
Bye for now.